It's the Brad Field Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering, Hot Meadow Street in Simsbury. I'm Dan Lovallo. He is meteorologist Brad Field. And last week when we did the podcast, Brad, we were talking about the tropics heating up. And boy, have they ever.
Boy, I was watching this morning, Dan. Unbelievable shots as the sun came up over portions of Louisiana and extreme eastern Texas. Just devastation. And that is what a Category 4, almost a Category 5 hurricane is capable of. Extreme to catastrophic damage. That's the Saffir-Simpson scale that rates the storms on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 actually being the most minimal in terms of damage, but Category 4, which is what Laura was when she came ashore near Cameron, Louisiana, in the middle of the night last night, capable of extreme damage. And just 5 miles per hour more of sustained wind, the difference between 150 miles per hour of sustained wind and 155 miles per hour of sustained wind, the difference between extreme and catastrophic damage. But the damage is real. As the sun came up this morning, you'll be watching on the national news. You'll see the pictures coming out of Lake Charles, Louisiana, where the winds gusted up to 132 miles per hour last night there, just causing devastation. I saw lines and lines of pine trees all down. It looked like a tornado came through. And I guess that's very possible that one did, because they can get embedded in the circulation of these tropical systems, Dan. But now that the hurricane is over land, it's weakening rapidly. As we tape this podcast this morning, it's a Category 2. It'll go down to a tropical storm, I would think, overnight tonight. And on Friday, I think that the storm will be a tropical depression, but still capable of producing a lot of rain along its path. And that could figure into our forecast as we head into Saturday.
Now, we're putting this podcast together on Thursday, August the 27th. So as you mentioned, inland, it was still a Cat 2. How rare is it for a hurricane to be Cat 2 that far inland?
Well, it's rare, Dan, because I think I was reading yesterday from Phil Klotzbach, who we talked about last week on the podcast from Colorado State University, that this is going to be in the top 10 of storms making landfall in the United States, and just how strong they were at the point of landfall. You know, you can think back to storms like Andrew coming ashore, Homestead, Florida, as a Category 5, and then there was Michael, and there was Hugo, and we've had, many major hurricanes that have come ashore, but Laura is definitely going to rank in the top 10. So it took a while, Dan, when it came ashore as a Category 4, but then you've got to consider the topography of Louisiana. The topography of Louisiana is nothing like, for example, the topography of Connecticut. So you get the storm still circulating over the bayous and so forth. It's a lot easier for it to maintain its strength. The warm water of the bayous, actually, too. But as it moves inland, the friction with homes and with buildings and with trees and so forth is messing up the circulation and causing it to slow. So that's going to continue throughout the day today, the friction with land as opposed to virtually frictionless surface as it's over the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. So it was so strong, Dan, that's what's taking it so long to weaken. But I do think that by late today, Thursday, August 27th, or early Friday, August 28th, it'll be a tropical storm. And then less than 24 hours from that, weakening to a tropical depression. And remember, we gave you all the criterion last week. Hurricane is winds of 74 miles per hour or greater. Tropical storm status is maximum sustained winds of 39 miles per hour or greater. So you can see that within a day or so from now, those winds, those sustained winds, will be down under 39 miles per hour.
The path that these storms take is a major variable. We witnessed that, for example, in our neck of the woods with Isaias. That said, this particular path the storm is taking, how unique is that?
Well, what we've got, Dan, actually, I saw this morning also that this took a path, and you should take a look at it if you're a weather buff. Go back and research Hurricane Rita in the year 2005. It looks like Laura's path almost exactly. So it just matters how upper level pressure systems set up and steer the surface system. So what's happening now? I can give you this is the 8 a.m. advisories Thursday morning, August 27th. The storm was at 31.2 north, 93.3 west, or in other words, about 20 miles north of Fort Polk, Louisiana, which is in extreme western Louisiana. The maximum sustained winds were 100 miles per hour. It was zipping to the north at 15 miles per hour, but the National Hurricane Center said that the storm is rapidly weakening. Now, a little bit of a plug here. You can go to bradfieldweather.com anytime and link to the National Hurricane Center and get the latest advisory. The next one, for example, comes out at 11 a.m. Eastern this morning, Thursday, August 27th. Still all sorts of warnings up, Dan. They were talking about a storm surge warning, and it's still up for High Island, Texas, to the mouth of the Mississippi River. Now, the storm surge is the wall of water that's pushed ahead by an advancing hurricane, and I do not recall verbiage like this before from the National Hurricane Center, but they were talking about the mandatory evacuations and the danger of life-threatening inundation. They were talking about the storm surge being unsurvivable. So they were using some very strong verbiage to get the people to move out of there. For the rest of the day, though, we're looking at rainfall, additional rainfall of 6 to 12 inches. We're looking for tornadoes, especially in that northeast leading quadrant of the storm as it advances. Louisiana, Arkansas, and western Mississippi. The middle of the night tonight, it looks like it will be Tropical Storm Laura, and it looks like it'll be over central Arkansas. For Friday, early afternoon, I think we've got a depression in northeast Arkansas coming into southwest Kentucky. The middle of the night, Friday night, it looks like a depression over central Kentucky. Saturday, early morning, the depression, what the remnants of Laura, should be over northern Virginia and the D.C. area. And here's what's important to us, Dan. From that point, it looks like it's moving to the east-northeast, so that by the middle of the night, Saturday night, it will be coming up on the famous New England benchmark, which is south and east of Nantucket. It's 40 north, 70 west. That's where we get our big snowstorms. And it's taking that path as a post-tropical cyclone. So the good news as far as Laura goes for us is we will have no wind, like Isaias gave us the wind. We will have no wind, but we could indeed have some very beneficial rain coming up. And we really need the rain because it's been a parched June, July, and August around here. But it looks like we could have 1.5 to 2 inches of rain between today and through the night, Saturday night.
And beneficial is the word, Brad, because it was announced yesterday that in northwest Connecticut, our neck of the woods, we're currently in a stage 2 drought.
Yes, parts of northern Connecticut, Dan, as you indicate, in a moderate drought. The climatology at Bradley in north central Connecticut through August 26th, only 1.1 inches of rain at Bradley. So in the month of August alone, to date, we are running a 2.3-inch rainfall deficit just in the month of August alone. And that's on the heels of a very dry June and a very dry July. So if we get the 1.5 to 2 inches of rainfall today, and then again on Saturday and Saturday night, totaling 1.5 to 2 inches, if we get that, we still will not make up the deficit for August alone. So we really have some work to do to get out of this sort of moderate drought that we're in over portions of northern Connecticut. And Dan, you know how I like to do the National Weather Service has this new tool of the probabilities of certain thresholds of rainfall. They have the threshold of 1 inch of rainfall, a 90 to 95% chance. So that's a solid rain. So it looks like the lawns and the gardens are going to get a good drink. 90 to 95 percent chance from New Haven to Norwich. So make that line from New Haven, sort of east-northeast to Norwich, and then point south of that, Clinton to New London, Groton area. 99 to 95% chance of an inch of rain, and a good solid 75 to 85% chance through northern Connecticut, including up your way, Dan, where there's that stage 2 drought in effect. And there is a 40 to 45% chance, so a pretty good chance of over 2 inches of rain. So this could be quite a significant rain, the best one we've had in a long time for the state of Connecticut.
I want to take a moment to talk about Action Carpet and Floor Covering, located on Hot Meadow Street in Simsbury, underwriting our Bradfield Weather Podcast. Action Carpet and Floor Covering, voted, by the way, first runner-up in the Best of Hartford Magazine 2019. Action Carpet and Floor Covering specializes in carpet, area rugs, runners, tile, vinyl. Action Carpet and Floor Covering is your place for laminate, engineered and solid wood, sanding and refinishing, radiant heating systems, mold and mildew remediation, water damage repair, professional installation, and professional cleaning services. You know, since 1993, Action Carpet and Floor Covering has served both residential and commercial customers throughout Connecticut and beyond. No job is too small. Action Carpet and Floor Covering values all of its customers regardless of the size of the project. By the way, Action Carpet and Floor Covering is a full-service, family-run floor company offering everything from brand-name floor covering products to professional installation and cleaning services. Call Action Carpet and Floor Covering today, 860-651-8406, 860-651-8406, or go online, action-carpet.com. That's action-carpet.com. And once again, Brad and I thank Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Hot Meadow Street in Simsbury for underwriting the Bradfield Weather Podcast. Okay, Brad, here we are on Thursday, August the 27th, and there's talk on the weather map here that we could be in for some severe weather in Connecticut and our neck of the woods this afternoon, the afternoon of the 27th. What's going on?
Correct, Dan. I mean, typically, if we were doing a podcast, this would be the focus of our attention, but when a Category 4 hurricane comes ashore with extreme to catastrophic damage, it kind of steals the limelight a little bit. But today I'll tell you what, we do have quite a bit going on here in Connecticut, and what we've got is we've got this Severe Prediction Center. They have over us, and this is quite rare, Dan, an enhanced risk of severe weather. And that enhanced risk is bullseyed over Connecticut, the southern tier of New York, New York City, and out over Long Island, northeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey. Again, this is the area that is in an enhanced risk. And off the air, Dan, you were telling me about a warm front that you were detecting just by your own personal experiences this morning. But it is that warm front that's going to cause the problem here today as it lifts slowly north through Connecticut. Now, the threat from the Severe Prediction Center includes a 5% risk of tornadoes, which is about as high, it doesn't sound high, but it's about as high a risk as we ever see. Their lowest threshold is a 2% chance, and that happens a handful of times a year. But to get a 5% chance of tornadoes over Connecticut, that's rare. That only happens maybe once or twice in an entire calendar year. They're predicting a 30% chance of wind damage. And again, we talk about what constitutes a severe thunderstorm. A severe thunderstorm is when the wind can gust over 58 miles per hour, or hail is 1 inch in diameter or greater. I read some technical discussions this morning of the potential for hail to get to 2 inches in diameter over the threat area. 15% chance of severe hail in western Connecticut especially. So the western third of Connecticut, Dan, out toward you, for example, the southern tier of New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey have the best chance of hail damage. And Dan, you're going to remember this name because when we did when we went and took our weathercasts on the road, and we went to the Cambridge House in Granby, Connecticut, I know you met Toby Richard, and Toby did some work for me when we had the tennis ball size hail bounce off my house in West Granby a couple of years back. I told Toby that this could be a big day for his business because there could be some hail damage today in western Connecticut, southern tier of New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey, with some very cold air coming in aloft. So there could be some very sizable hail forming as well.
Can you time it out for us?
Yes, sure, Dan. What we're looking at on the weather map is that front that we were talking about, this strong front kind of strung out through New York and southern New England. It, as you indicated this morning, it's slowly lifting north as a warm front. When we first started this conversation before we went on the air, I said in the room that I'm standing in as we're taping this podcast, it's cold. I had to shut the windows. And you were telling me that in Torrington, it all of a sudden seemed like the humidity was popping up, which would indicate that the warm front is either on top of you or coming through. But this warm front is going to be lifting to the north today, and that's going to put us in the warm sector, and that is going to put us in the potential for the severe weather. I think that the front is only going to make it to about Massachusetts, but that's far enough for us. That's going to put us in the warm sector with the potential for severe weather. Now, that front will be oscillating back and forth over Connecticut on Friday. I think for the most part, we will be back on the dry side of things, the northern side of the front, and Friday looks like a pretty good day. But then the front is going to bop back to the north again, and that's going to open the floodgates up for the remnants of Laura. So Saturday, the front is now back up through central New England. We're kind of in humid air again here in Connecticut, and the remnants of Laura will be over Kentucky. But by Sunday, remember I told you about the remnants going by 40-70 on Saturday night. The remnants of Laura will be east of Cape Cod on Sunday with high pressure over the Great Lakes. It looks like high pressure will be centered from upstate New York to Ontario province on Monday. So Sunday and Monday look delightful. Tuesday, the high will be off Boston. And then Wednesday, the high will be strung out from Nova Scotia down through the western hills of North Carolina. We'll start getting into a bit of a more humid flow on the backside of the high with a rising chance for some showers then. But as far as the severe weather today is concerned, Dan, There are some showers this morning as this front creeps north as a warm front. But as we break into the warm sector this afternoon, I think in terms of timing out these storms, the best chance would be in the mid to late afternoon, maybe trickling into the early evening hours. So if I had to pin down a time frame, I'd say something like 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The main threat is wind and hail damage. But again, you cannot ignore the fact that the Storm Prediction Center is giving a 5% chance of tornadoes over the region. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. What you see is sort of veering winds in the atmosphere as you move up through the as you move up through the vertical. So in other words, say you've got a southeast wind at the surface, and then you go a mile up, and it veers to more of a southwesterly wind, and then you go up a mile and a half or 2 miles, and then it's more of a west-northwesterly wind. If you get this wind twisting with height through the atmosphere as you go up through the atmosphere, that's a condition of helicity, it's called, or the potential for tornadoes to form with that kind of twisting motion in the vertical in the atmosphere.
If we get any sun in the interim, how much of an impact will that have on our severe weather chances?
Well, sun destabilizes the atmosphere, Dan. It absolutely does. You get more of a temperature difference in the vertical. You get a warmer ground, for example, and a very cold upper atmosphere. So that adds to the destabilization, adds to the turbulence in the atmosphere. So yes, in this case, the best possible result would be to stay overcast all day long. You start breaking into sun, you might start to think, that's not a good thing.
Okay, let's look into our crystal ball segment now, because you talked about perhaps next week getting back into that humid flow. It seems hard to believe, but the next podcast we do will be in September. So look into your crystal ball as far as our weather is concerned.
Yeah, I was noticing that this morning, Dan, when I was writing down the dates. It does look like that from the middle of next week. So I'm going to take you with a forecast through the middle of next week. But the crystal ball segment starts in the middle of next week. Excuse me, I've had a tickle in my throat here a little bit. But from Wednesday, September 2nd through Saturday, September 5th, it looks like they'll be ridging over the southeastern United States, which would be meaning that the warmest of the air would be down over, say, Florida, for example, a trough through the Midwest. So the core of the coldest air with respect to average looks to me to be over Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. The center of the warmest air would be Florida, and the extreme eastern seaboard of the United States, like coming up to eastern Georgia, eastern South Carolina, eastern North Carolina. That area will be a little bit on the warm side. So you can see the ridge in the west, the trough in the middle, the ridge along the extreme eastern seaboard of the United States. And that the rain area is between. It's where, remember, we always talk about where the temperature contrast is the greatest, usually favors where the storm track is. And it looks like the storm track will be through the Ohio Valley and into western New York. This, again, is for the first few days of the month of September. So I would expect that the rainiest weather with respect to average would be Illinois, Indiana, and on up into western sections of New York. Now, as we go to the first full week of September, it looks like the core of the coolest air is over Minnesota and Iowa. Again, mildest on the west coast, mildest on the east coast. It still looks like that ridge, trough, ridge setup across the United States. And even into mid-September, again, the core of the coolest air looks to set up over Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas. But here's the main thing. Because of the fact that the days are getting shorter, because of the fact that climatologically now the jet stream is coming further to the south, there is some cold air getting involved. So for the lower 48, you go through the month of June, you go through the month of August. Really, all you're getting is convective activity as the sun heats up the ground. You're seeing thunderstorms form and so forth. Well, now as the jet stream returns into play, at least along the northern tier, along the United States-Canada border, you're getting this mix of cool air and warm air. You're getting a storm track. So, potentially as we go through the next several weeks, even climatologically, not so much looking at the actual weather map, but climatologically, it argues that we're going to start getting into more of a regular rainy routine where we see rain every few days, we see frontal passages, it's warm for a couple of days, and then it's cool for a couple of days, unlike the summer where it just stays hot day after day after day.
So, it's nothing out of the ordinary is what you're saying.
Correct. It's just sort of a normal thing as the jet stream starts to migrate its way back to the south. And, we look down the line, Dan, you say the crystal ball segment already takes us into September. Our next podcast is in September. I've even had a few people reaching out to me on bradfieldweather.com in the comments section or on my Facebook or Twitter accounts saying, hey, it won't be long before we're making the winter forecast again. So usually that starts around October.
Yeah, that's not that far off for sure. Well, that said, considering what's in the offing and how interesting our weather could be just in the immediate future, how about we put a wrap on the podcast by giving us the immediate forecast?
Well, Dan, a word of caution is to all of our friends that are listening here on Thursday, August 27th. And, of course, if you listen to our podcast on Friday, August 28th, it's already going to be gone. But if you happen to listen to our podcast when we release it midday today, be weather aware this afternoon. Make sure your cell phone is charged so that you can get any kind of warnings or whatever over your cell phone, because we do have a severe threat this afternoon. There's no question about it. Showers and thunderstorms. Again, Dan, you asked me for the time frame. I'd say 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. is the time frame we have to be most on alert. Some of the thunderstorms could contain damaging wind gusts. Some of the thunderstorms could contain large hail. And there could be isolated tornado activity as well. I would not be shocked if someone gets a tornado warning today. Temperatures will be in the 70s. The early storms around overnight tonight, then some late night clearing, temperature between 58 and 64. Looks like a nice Friday with sunshine and temperatures 80 to 85, but then clouding up on Friday night with showers developing towards Saturday daybreak, temperature in the 60s. It looks like showers and thunderstorms will be around on Saturday as the remnants of Laura makes a track from about Washington, D.C. to southeast of Nantucket. So as the storm tracks like big nor'easters do here in the winter, we could see some rain up into Connecticut, the heaviest rain in southeastern Connecticut. The best chance for 2 inches of rain would be in New London County. Sunday and Monday look beautiful. Sunshine, temperatures in the 70s, blue sky, low humidity. Tuesday, partly sunny, 75 to 80. And then by the middle of next week, rising humidity, but still not hot, 75 to 80 with rising chance for showers. And Dan, as you look at this forecast, a lot of 70s and low 80s in the forecast, perhaps, and we'll put that with a capital P, perhaps we've broken the back of the summer heat, which was really quite awful this year.
Well, we did set a record, correct? 39 days of 90-degree plus, yeah.
Yeah, well, we're still counting. The record's not into the books yet. The most we ever had prior to this summer season was the summer of 1983. So I guess, what's that, 37 years ago we have to go back. But that set the record for 38 days with the temperature at or above 90. I want to do a little further research on this before I start talking off the top of my head. But I want to look back and see how many days this year were exactly 90. There were quite a few of them because my argument was that because the soil moisture was so low, because of the drought on June, July, and August, that there wasn't not much transpiration from blades of grass or leaves or whatever, and that causes a cooling effect such that in most summers, when you have normal amount of ground soil, instead of the temperature reaching 90 on that bunch of days as it did this year, it would have only reached, say, 87 or 88, something like that. So I want to do a little research on how much the lack of soil moisture contributed to the fact that we had one of the hottest summers on record.
All right, that'll be interesting for sure. Well, that said, as always, Brad, as you know, we thank our first responders for the magnificent job that they do. And, of course, they'll be on alert again today. But to you and Sandy and your family and to all of our podcast listeners, have a safe day and also a great weekend.
Yeah, the first responders, not only here in Connecticut, Dan, and all over the United States due to COVID-19, but the first responders now are going to be down in Louisiana and eastern Texas and probably moving up into Arkansas for floods and all the wind and tidal damage as well.
All right. Be safe, my friend, and we'll talk again next week.
Sounds good, Dan. Thank you.
The Brad Field Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering, Hop Meadow Street in Simsbury.